Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We have reached the penultimate, I've learned how to say that word correctly, episode
Yes,
of WandaVision.
you
uh,
did it.
I did
I'm
it.
proud of you.
Thank you. And we're going to be mixing things up a little bit this week. If you've watched this episode of WandaVision, you know that they mixed it up a little, gave us no type of special sitcom intro or anything. And so we're going to mix it up a little bit this week as well. And we are not going to actually separate the whole video into segments of recap, review, theories, and whatnot. We're going to jump straight into our thoughts and recap it as we give our thoughts. So, Andrew, take it away.
Yes. So this episode opens up with the thing that I have the most thoughts about. It opens up in Salem, Massachusetts, 1693. That's a choice. It shows a coven of witches kind of dragging Agatha and apparently going to execute her or something like that. And that is kind of whatever. I have some issues with them setting it in the Salem witch trials period. Well, in the whole thing, it's like the term witch hunt is a thing for a reason. And I consider what we do here at HitPoint to be kind of cultural criticism through the lens of pop culture. So this is going to be kind of addressing culture that created a really weird moment for me watching WandaVision. But like the term witch hunt is a thing because we we killed a lot of people at Salem for being witches, which was a convenient term to just, weed out some people and do very horrible things. So using the backdrop of the Salem witch trials as a moment for your TV show to set up an actual like witch character felt really weird because it's using the actual tragedy of like 20 people who were wrongfully executed as like a moment of pop culture fun that felt very gross. Like those are real people who died, and we're saying, oh, there actually were witches there, which in a weird way kind of implies that, hey, we were right to do those things. And I know they did this because Agatha is a character from the comics, and she in the comics is from the Salem witch trials. And I think her involvement in the comics, from what you explained it to me, Jeremy, is kind of even more weird than it's presented here. But even then, like, there's still a culture that allows for that to be used as like a historical touch point to say, oh, hey, we're referencing this, even though that was kind of a bad thing. So that was a weird thing that Marvel chose to do. And with all that being said, then the rest of the episode happens. Jeremy, what happens to the rest of the episode? Because I've said my bit about the weirdness of this episode.
Yeah, so the rest of the episode, if you've been watching all the MCU content that's come out over the years, is basically a this is your life moment with Wanda of going through all these things we have heard about in other movies about her life and her getting to relive all those, the whole bombing of her house and her and Pietro just staring at a bomb waiting for it to go off, her being experimented on by Hydra with the Loki staff, which we learned, of course, was had the Mind Stone in it, and then her first interaction of like where there was a spark between her and Vision, and then from there seeing what happened when she went to S.W.O.R.D. That we had seen on the cameras that they had shown in previous episode. So I mean, we got to see those four segments of her life, and we had seen or heard an aspect of it or heard about it throughout all of the other things that have come out in the MCU. So it wasn't anything new for the most part of with all these things reliving her life. I mean, when she was being tested on with Hydra, the Mind Stone actually came out of the staff and kind of exploded, and she saw a silhouette of the Scarlet Witch figure in costume. And so, I mean, I thought that was a really cool segment with that, just kind of a nod more to the comics and being like, okay, yeah, like, hey, this is Scarlet Witch. And as we get towards the end of the recap of this, there's a reason why they did that. But it was cool to see that it was cool to see the different segments of her life that we've heard about. It introduced why everything in this show had been sitcom based. because her parents brought DVDs from America, like, or had gotten copies of them, and they would watch all these sitcoms. And so all the ones they have parodied, like I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, Bewitched, The Brady Bunch, Malcolm in the Middle, all those were shows that she would watch as a kid, with her family. And that continued even when she was in captivity with Hydra. Well, not captivity, when she was being tested by Hydra. She in her cell, she would watch those sitcoms. And then also when she was in the Avengers compound in her own room, she had all those sitcoms and would watch them. And so that really explained, and I thought that was a really cool twist of like explaining this is why she's been doing all these different types of shows, because those are what she escaped to escape reality in her real life. So that was a really cool nod.
Yeah, and we get a cool connection to a lot of like the commercials that are playing in between the shows. So we see like a Stark Industries bomb with a little flashing light has like landed in their apartment, and that connects, I think, to the very first episode where there's the Stark Industries toaster where it's got the flashing red light. So that was pretty neat to see how those finally kind of connect with each other.
Yep. And so the biggest, I'd say, reveal from all the things we got to see with Wanda reliving moments was when she went to S.W.O.R.D. How it had been portrayed by director Hayward, which I realized when watching this episode, I've been in previous videos calling him director Haywood, and that's not his name. His name's director Hayward. And it was revealed that, yes, Wanda did go to the S.W.O.R.D base because she knew that they had Vision's body. She went there, though, with the motivation because she just wanted his body to bury it. And they let her in. She talked to the director. He showed her what they were doing and painted it as a picture of like, hey, we are dismantling him so no one else can use him like he has done. But he said some weird things then of that kind of came across like he was trying to manipulate Wanda, because he brought up like, you can't take him back and bring him back to life, and that she's like, I wasn't even thinking of that. I just wanted to bury his body and give him a proper funeral. Like, I deserve to be able to do that. And it's like, why would he bring that up unless he's hoping that maybe she has that capability to actually do that? So that was weird. But then her anger of seeing all of it and the devastation of him being taken apart, like, she did get angry and she blew up the window like we saw in the video of like the security video. And then she went in, but she only went in there to say goodbye, basically, and like use her ability to see if she could even feel any aspect of Vision still in the body, and she couldn't. And so she left. And so the director has painted this picture that she came and stole the body because the Vision that's in the Hex is this body, and it's not. She left the body there. And we find that out for sure that it's not that body in the scene after, because Wanda drives to Westview. And this was really cool, I felt, as well, because it explained what has been important about Westview, why she was even there. She went there to an empty lot where there was no house, and you find out she has a note from Vision, and that it is a deed to the property where this house is that Vision bought for her so they could build a life together there. And that's when it is revealed it's out of that grief, out of everything that's built up in all of her life, and the stuff with Vision, she has a moment that she can't control these abilities she has, and it explodes and it creates this alternate world, and she creates a Vision out of nowhere. And that clearly has looked to be it's partially from Wanda's own memories, but also you saw the coloring of the Mind Stone. That I mean, you have to remember that Wanda's abilities, which up to this point we thought came from the Mind Stone, we learn in this were enhanced by the Mind Stone. So there's might be some aspect there of like, even though the Mind Stone's not in that world anymore because it's been put back into the past, that the stones have been destroyed in their timeline, like she might have remnants of some of that power still though. And so it was interesting to see that. But yeah, like I said, we did learn through this that Wanda's abilities of being able to manipulate some things, or as Agatha called it, probability magic at first, was something she already inherently had within her, and the Mind Stones seem to enhance those tremendously. And so that was an interesting nod of the fact that Wanda's abilities actually were something that she already had. And that leads to, after all this stuff, and Wanda, we see everything that happened. Wanda then gets back to the present. She hears her kids yelling for her. She runs outside, and Agatha, in full evil witch garb now, is restraining the kids with some purple magic around their throat, and is talking to Wanda. And this is where we get the big name drop for the first time ever in the MCU, where Agatha calls Wanda the Scarlet Witch.
Hey, it's the thing that Fox wouldn't let them say.
Yes, and it's presented in a way of like a mythical moniker that was only in myth, that this being that would be able to use what they call chaos magic, which is extremely powerful and manipulative. And that is the reveal with Wanda, and that's where we're left at the end of the episode, is Wanda staring down Agatha restraining her kids, and that name drop. And till we get to the post-credit scene, where we finally learn what director Hayward's been doing all this time, and come to find out they were not dismantling Vision's body, they were putting it back together, and they wanted to... They've been doing all the things they've been doing with the Hex to try to get some of Wanda's power to reanimate this Vision. And in this Vision, what is different is he is completely white, and like when he reawakens, looks at his hands and seems to have somewhat of a sinister smile on his face, I would say, just sort of away from an editing, I'd say, perspective. And that's how that scene ends, and leads us to whatever's going to happen in the finale, which we would assume is going to be a Vision versus Vision battle, and a Wanda versus Agatha battle, and everyone versus S.W.O.R.D battle. And so, I mean, I really, looking at this episode, was very much intrigued just to see more of Wanda's history. It really did reinforce what we've talked about in prior videos of this series has been about Wanda dealing with grief and the stages of grief. And she was basically forced to come head first with all of her grief in this episode, which hopefully that leads now to where she can go towards that stage of acceptance. But I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen with Vision. I think it's very unique take to bring in this white Vision character. I did learn afterwards that actually is based in the comics, that there was a white Vision as well, that he was actually created by a different hero after the original Vision was dismantled. But when he came online, it was very much the same of like, what we assume is going to be the case is he had no memories of anything from the past, had no experiences that created any kind of emotion, so he was like a blank slate AI that just was very cold. And so kind of could figure that might be the direction they're going to go. But overall, like, I enjoyed the episode for what it was. It did feel like it was a little out of place compared to what we've been experiencing, just because it very much was that dynamic shift of, yep, in Wanda's world now, we're completely going to modern time MCU. It's going to have that same drive and feel, and we are done with all the sitcom stuff. And we're going to explain what's going on with Wanda. And to that point, they explained why Agatha's there. And it's because Agatha, it seems to have this innate thing within her she can't control of wanting to enhance her own abilities. And at the same time, regardless of the cost of what that might be. And you saw that with the first spot within the Salem trials with what happened with all the witches. And she basically sucked in all their power as they're trying to do whatever they were doing to her, including her own mom's. And so it was a thing where she's trying to figure out, okay, what is this magical being? What kind of magic is this? Trying to detect it. That's why she's in this world, and was looking at Wanda and trying to like analyze her. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen. I have some theories though. But do you have any other thoughts, Andrew, of what you thought about the rest of the episode?
Yeah, I really liked this episode a lot. I think it was really good. It was really cool to see Marvel go whole hog on just building on one of their female characters, because that's not something they've done a whole lot of with the entire MCU. So it was cool to just spend an entire episode just like exploring Wanda's history, how that's affected her and shaped her character. And it's cool to see where that might go in the future. I was genuinely surprised by the reveal with S.W.O.R.D, with her not actually taking the body. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this to play out this way. But it was pretty cool to see that, and definitely cemented some thoughts with me with what's moving forward now with the director and his nefarious plans. But I really liked the episode a lot. I'm excited to see where the finale goes. I think it's going to be a pretty cool showdown that we've been building up to, and I think I think they've really have earned a really cool showdown with all these episodes, and I'm excited for it.
Nice. So Andrew, I came out of this penultimate episode we're going to the finale, 2 for 2, going into the finale with 2 new theories that are tied together. But before I jump into those, because they're a little bit more of the bigger theories, I think for sure one theory I have is we're going to definitely see a fight between the 2 visions in the next episode. Everything is gonna come to a head. It's the finale. That's one thing I'd say with this penultimate 3 for 3 episode is that
you're just showing off.
Yeah. They really did take this episode to really build up to say, okay, we're going to have a pretty crazy finale. So with that, I've got 2 big theories. I think that this is when we're going to figure out of how in the heck this affects everything else in the MCU. Because of the fact that Doctor Strange is called the Multiverse of Madness, and we don't have a legitimate multiverse yet, and the rumors with everything that's going on with Spider-Man of that you're going to have Alfred Molina coming back to play Doc Ock. And then the other villain that's going to be coming back potentially would be Electro, played by Jamie Foxx. With those 2 characters coming back playing the same, it sounds like not the same iteration of the characters they played before, but different. It opens up of that theory of like the multiverse affecting the Spider-Man universe of movies as well. And I mean, it's not been confirmed. Everyone's been denying it, but there's been a lot of rumors of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming back as well. So with all those rumors going around, I have one theory that at the end of this finale, Agatha is going to have figured out a way to take Wanda's abilities from her. And Agatha, using chaos magic, is going to create multiple different realities, and due to that will then lead to why Doctor Strange shows up in the next Spider-Man movie, as it's his first experience of dealing with an alternate reality scenario, which then leads to why then Scarlet Witch is in his movie, because then he'll have to go recruit Wanda to come and help him, because my other theory is at the end of this that Vision will come back to life, because there will be a merger between Wanda's vision and the one that S.W.O.R.D has made that brings the 2 visions together, and the kids get to stay alive as well, and Wanda gets to live out her life and have a happy ending, and she won't have abilities anymore, so she doesn't have to worry about that. So it would be Doctor Strange trying to recruit her to come back to help him out to defeat Agatha. That's one of the theories that it's similar to the other, is that instead of it being Agatha, it will be Wanda who does still actually create the multiverse to continue to have a life with Vision and her kids that expands everywhere else. And a twist with that being because she actually... it's because we find it's the twist on the theory with Agatha is that Agatha's actually is still there, not to do something nefarious, but to actually do something to where she wants to train Wanda in her chaos magic abilities. And so it would be in that training is what causes everything to happen with Wanda creating alternate realities. There's some other twists and turns you could take with that, but I do think of what the big theory I have when it comes to now we're at the finale is when you look at the whole MCU, what's going to create this multiverse is either going to be Agatha or Wanda, and something happens with one or the other that they either with knowledge or accidentally create a giant multiverse where there's just so many alternate realities. And I think and I have really, as I've thought about that, I think there's some legitimacy because of the fact of before Spider-Man, we have nothing else coming out that would be affected by that happening. With Falcon and Winter Soldier, my guess is because it was originally supposed to come out before WandaVision anyways, that it's going to be something that takes place at the same time. And so maybe at the end of that show, we'll see of how everything that happened here affects them as well. We have the Loki show, which takes place in alternate timelines anyways. And then you have, for movies, you have Shang-Chi coming out in the summer, which is an origin story, which would, who knows what even setting it takes place in. And then you have the Eternals coming out in November, which is in a totally different universe. And so probably not going to affect them either. And so then the only other shows that they've talked about coming out this year are Ms. Marvel and the Hawkeye show. And most likely, I would guess all those are taking place after Endgame too. So really the first movie that's potentially would be affected would be Spider-Man. And so I'm just thinking of from a plot standpoint, planning standpoint, as Marvel's really good at doing, and Kevin Feige keeps on saying the multiverse is going to have a role in the MCU Phase 4. It's, okay, they're going to build up all these characters and then show in their end credit scenes how what Wanda did affected all of them.
Yeah, I could see.
And then Spider-Man's the epitome, and then Doctor Strange is the result of trying to fix it. So...
Yeah,
that's my
I
theory.
I can definitely see that happening. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening with the multiverse happening. You kind of stole the thunder with my theory was, yes, the merger of the two Visions as well. I think we'll see Vision coming back. I hope we see Vision coming back. I don't really feel like we've gotten enough of his character yet. And I've really been enjoying how Paul Bettany's been playing him, and I want to see more of him. So I really hope they bring Vision back. That's really the big theory that I have, and it's not even that big of a theory. I think it's not necessarily confirmed, but it seems like they're going to move forward with it.
Logically, it makes sense.
Yes, agree.
But I mean, it was cool to get the reinforcement of like everything we've been saying about S.W.O.R.D was right. Your theory of that mine was wrong is that Agatha really being the big bad seems to be right. Pietro not being himself is right. She even said he's fake Pietro or Fietro. We just still don't know who this person is then that's portraying Pietro. And then also just the confirmed theory of like this really has been about Wanda's grief was confirmed. And especially this episode reaffirmed that just because of going through all of the stuff that have caused her grief. But I think what I'd like to end with that was the line that Vision said and their little interaction, because I think because this show in all reality has been very heavy in the sense of emotionally, and I could see it could be potentially cathartic for those who have really struggled with depression over time, of just to see it being played out. And I felt like the line that Vision said was very wise and very deep, for especially as he said, to that point he had not dealt with losing a loved one ever and didn't really understand all these different emotions. But he said, isn't grief, you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, if you remember, like basically one of the deepest forms of love.
Grief is love persevering.
Yeah, grief is love persevering. And that we are supposed to spend time with grieving. Like we need to mourn. Like you don't want to ignore those feelings. Like you need to actually spend time mourning when things have happened. And there's a season and there's a time for that. And that goes for as long as it needs to go for. And you spend that time mourning, and it's because of the love that you had is where that comes from. So not a note we normally end these things on, but as an encouragement to everyone who's watching, like we don't know what everyone is going through right now in their life, but don't feel ashamed for the things that you're feeling, and allow yourself to go through the feelings that you're experiencing. Because that's how we grow, and that's how we become healthy.
Yeah. And then you just follow it up with a superhero punch down, drag out, and everything is all better.
There you go. So I think that's it that we have for this week's recap. And do you have any other thoughts, Andrew?
No, just let us know what your thoughts are, your theories, in the comments below. Be sure to join our Discord where we talk about this kind of stuff pretty regularly.
Yep, and that link is in the description as well.
Sure is.
And don't forget, hit like and subscribe, and don't forget, keep an eye on your health bar.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning into HitPoint. We hope this refilled your health bar and provided a much-needed mental break. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the logo that's over my face. Or if you want more content, click here or here.